um, I just want to make sure, that you're okay if this gets shared out there in the world.
Yeah.
And if it gets shared out there, I'll be mindful when we're in the session because
Okay.
it can go deep. So my thing that I
Okay.
like to say, if people are sharing things out there, just say pass. If something comes up and it's a little too much
Okay.
that you don't want to have shared, just say pass, and I'll be able to edit that part out.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Actually, yeah, I do. Actually, let me tell you, I think it's just perfect because this day has been sort of one of those days you wake up and then like, you're in a low vibe and you're not really sure why, and you have to sort of, I keep digging. I don't just brush it off because I know that doesn't work. So like, this is perfect actually. Like, and one of the things I notice when I do, like when I get in those sort of days like that, you want to go small again and not, share everything.
Yeah.
So this is actually perfect for me because like before that, I have days but I mean, overall, like I've really gotten where I share a lot. And I think the more I share deeper, it'll help me just keep sharing deeper on my stuff too. So if that makes
Beautiful.
sense.
Yes. I love it. So thank you.
You're
Now,
welcome.
kind of say like, okay, this is welcome to the Mind Money Magic Show.
Okay.
Here with Connie Curtis, and she is a coach for gluten intolerant people. She has a great approach. The misconceptions of, just taking gluten out of a few areas of your life, which we've been told a lot, and that it actually exists in so much more. But we're just gonna get deep into your life a little, Connie, and
Okay.
see what comes up, see what we can work
Okay.
with, okay? So
Okay.
this is going to work really well if we're both just open. I know it's hard when something's going to be shared, or so let's just pretend that it's me and you.
Okay.
We're having a regular session. It's not getting shared with anybody
Okay.
anywhere, and let's see where we can go.
Okay.
So one of the first things that I like to ask people, and you said you've kind of worked on a lot of this stuff too with other coaches, is
Yeah, because sorry, yeah.
go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say one of the things I've really seen and heard from other coaches is like your money blocks are usually not your money blocks, but your self-worth. And I know from my own personal digging, that's usually the case. And then it comes up for you when you're going to different levels in your business and
Yeah.
life. The
And
same shit
we can,
might come up. Sorry if
as
I can say
entrepreneurs, yeah, as entrepreneurs, oh yeah, anything
that.
goes. Um,
Yeah.
we can almost be guaranteed that big shit will show up when we're just about to make a big leap.
And I have that inner, like I've found out through my journey, I'm more intuitive, and I've always sort of knew it, but I didn't really embrace it. So now like I can feel our energy, like, and I just feel like I have big things that are switching. And that's one reason I was in where I was at today, right? Like the grieving process, I think of it still, even though I've journaled and said goodbye and done and things that I know to do that help me. And sometimes it's just a matter of like going into the mix and sort of just, it's just what you got to do to sort of face it and see what's there for you, and then take
Yeah.
the good magic out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's always great stuff along with the crazy messed up shit too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's always
Yeah.
both. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But
That's sort of how it works.
yeah, that's how, I guess that's what we agreed to when we came here. So let's talk about what life was like for you growing up. It's always
Okay.
a place that I like to kind of go with my clients just to see, so I get a picture, a vision. Paint me a picture of what it was like for you growing up.
Okay. So I grew up in a farm in West Texas.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was always outside. I love nature. And I grew up basically living, I would say now, probably more sustainable than most people. And it wasn't a label back then, right? So, um, just really connection with nature, animals, the planet, and doing things around that. Helped too in a way that I don't think I really recognized. I was always really sick as a child. I was sick. I was sick like a lot, like allergies, like pneumonia, things like that. Let's see. I was really quiet and shy growing up. Not speaking my mind or being self-expressed in most cases. And very conservative household, where I grew up in Texas. And, certain things just weren't talked about because they were deemed evil and not really, I don't even remember the other word. That's why I remember as a child, right? So and money, I grew up with sayings like money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard for your money. Not even smart, just hard.
Yep.
Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is the root of all evil.
All of
those wonderful things. And I have worked on quite a few of those. But they still could be playing around in there. So yeah. So because those are really the prevalent sayings I remember. Money. So yeah. And I always remember having that feeling that we didn't have a lot, but we always had enough. But there was never anything that that verified that, right? Parents or anything else. It was just sort of that feeling I had.
So if you would have asked for something as a kid, you really, really wanted something new, whether it was a new shirt or a bicycle or ice cream at the grocery store, there's usually a memory that people have shopping with mom or shopping with dad or shopping with grandma or shopping with somebody where a situation came up, even if it was you wanted the Granny Smith apples and there was no way you were getting the Granny Smith apples. For me, it was a bathing suit. I wanted a bathing suit. My mother said, no, absolutely not. You don't need a bathing suit. I cried. I was probably 10 or 11, so it wasn't like I was throwing a young toddler tantrum.
I'm not present to an exact event, but the things I do remember is most of the time when I got stuff, it was usually on for Christmas or birthdays. And this actually, I never really thought about this, but this might have come out of something like that, which you can probably tell me more. I actually not a big, I'm more of an experienced person than buying stuff. And I don't know if my child has a bearing on it. It probably does. I never really thought about it before, but mom, we would go shopping for clothes and stuff before school. But a lot of times when my mom bought stuff, it was more what she liked rather than what I liked is what I remember more than anything else. And I cannot remember what you're talking about, an exact event where I wanted something and didn't get it, or maybe I didn't get exactly what I wanted. It was more what they thought I should have. But I'm sure it occurred because that's just parents doing the best they can, and most parents, that's the only thing they need to do. And even though I can't remember the exact thing, what you're saying sort of resonates with me, just resonates with me, right? Even though I can't tell you the exact event that happened.
There's an emotion there somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I do have feelings of anger coming up. I just can't tell you specifically why.
We'll probably get there. But one of the things I really like to mention too is there's no shaming of our parents or guilt, even sometimes when they deserve it. But it's really, in most cases, our parents were doing the best that they could from the era that they were coming out of.
And my parents were raised in the Depression era too.
Yeah. So their
yeah,
belief
so they did
system.
the totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally get that. And I got some really it's like Tony Robbins says, like, you don't blame your parents for what you didn't get, but like, I mean, look at the great things you did get from them, right?
Yeah, that's right. I do remember him saying that. It's true. But it's also important to look at what happened to us in certain situations.
Right.
The belief systems or the vows that we might have made in
Right.
a moment.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
something that came up there was, and this could come along with how how things come up in your business, is
Okay.
that there were celebratory gifts, like Christmas gifts, birthday gifts. That's when you kind of got new things.
Yeah. I don't really remember getting things like outside
Yeah.
or, new clothes at school time, right? Like, I don't remember getting things just because, oh, I wanted them, right? Because, like, I don't know if they ever said anything like that, right? But in like where I lived out, like, most kids didn't get things just because they wanted them, unless the perception was, unless like their parents had money, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
it's important to look at that now too and see if you still kind of, because what we fall into is a way that we end up treating ourselves the way that we were treated when we were young. So you might find yourself around holidays or around special events. That's when you do really well in your business, because a part of you, the subconscious part of you, believes that you deserve it in those times.
Okay.
It might be something to look back at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then to open that up and say, okay, like, you've done some of this work, so you deserve it. You deserve it now, all the time, right? You're worthy of it. You're
Yeah.
seeing your value. When it comes to value, you said like you were a shy kid and
Mm-hmm.
you weren't fully expressed.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah. What was that? What's behind that? Tell me a little bit more about that.
One thing I think it was is I had a older brother, like 13 years older than me, like, but I always felt like somehow overshadowed. And I know that was what I made up from my side, right? Like, but I know it did play a part in, like, me probably being quiet and shy. And I felt like I had to be the good girl and the smart girl to like live up to, like, the perception of like, I don't know, like, because we went to church and stuff, and not like doing things that were like bad, considered in like, conservative, religious basics, basically.
Yep.
Because I know that's not true now, right? Because I know the universe and all that stuff. Like, I know that. So at least maybe it may subconsciously still not be going, but I know I've really made breaking ground in realizing, that whoever you believe in, universe,
Yeah.
they,
God.
God, they don't want you to struggle and like, because if you're struggling and broke, how can you help other people? And if you're down, depressed, I heard this morning from this person I follow. If you're down, sad, and depressed, how can you help other people? You can't.
You can't.
And I know I've made ground, but sometimes I still feel like there's something lurking, and I just can't put my finger on it quite, like why I can't keeping my vibes up, and being in that flow. Because sometimes I'm in the flow, and then sometimes it's just like I have the hardest time getting back into it. And it's sort of like, okay, is it really a money block, or is it something, which is something probably deeper, maybe still, like, it could be old stories coming up, or it could be something that, I hadn't quite like.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever really fully polish it off.
Oh
It's
no,
like,
you're always learning and growing.
oh
So.
my God. Yeah, just when you think you've got something, something will show up and be like, oh my God, really? I thought it was over this like 20 years ago.
I
But
know. Yeah.
it only shows up so you can learn in a deeper way.
Yeah, because the deeper you up level,
Yeah,
like the same thing may come up, but it's just deeper. So I think
yeah,
that's my case with you today, actually. So because I've
yeah.
declared to myself and my friends, because I want to go completely digital. Like I've wanted to do that for long before it
Yeah.
even was a thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
'Cause I was around before the internet was like it gave us this possibility. So and
Mhm.
now it's like actually I have the tools and like the possibility of like just other things that have came together in the world where I can actually do it now, right? But it's like exciting, scary, and it's sort of like shit. And it's like all this new stuff taking me out of my comfort zone, like just moving in that direction, right? And the universe keeps showing up for me, supplying,
Mhm.
having my back on stuff, right? Stuff that I've manifested, and I can manifest stuff, but I just don't manifest it fast because I'm not in my feminine always. So I know that's one of the things, right? Because that's when you're in the flow. So,
Mhm. When you're in feminine desire, for sure.
yeah.
And but it helps to balance that feminine and masculine,
Mhm.
because the masculine part can really help pull it into physical,
I
right?
used to be all masculine though, like 2 years, not all masculine, right? But for like most
Yeah.
women, like 2 years ago, that was especially when I was, working on doing anything around my business. Like I just got so frustrated and all the low vibes, right? It just, I didn't get anywhere, and it's so obvious why. Now I understand why, but I didn't then. But you
Yeah.
know, so yeah. So I feel like sometimes it's just learning to keep that balance and the feminine. Because I have things I've manifested. I put on like I use I create a vision board on my phone, right? So I just sort of
Mhm.
look and forget, which is usually the best way we're starting to learn, right? Instead of looking
Mhm.
all the time. So
Yeah.
and like things just come up and I was like, whoa. And now I'm learning to say, oh, of course they did, right? More
Mhm.
please,
Yeah.
not be like going, oh, that's weird, but like, of
Yeah.
course it happened, right? Because I created that
Because
happen.
someone's talking about that and thinking
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about what you did. What did you do for work before you were doing this?
Sales, which we're
Yeah.
always doing sales, but I did sales mainly around computer, hardware, software, different types. Like a lot of people probably, I switched jobs all the time because I would take a new one, I would get bored. And for me personally, I would also get bored and then move to a new state.
Okay. So moving around lots.
I moved around quite a lot. I mean, according to my family, right? Because they were like, you pick a place, sort of, everybody, you pick a place, you get a house, you do the whole da 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 thing, right? So I was probably, I guess, I always thought it was being scared that sort of, I mean, I was a victim too for a while. Like that was my biggest, I know we're a mixture of different things, but the victim for me ran the show big time. So like she was just, I was good at it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I loved moving around. And even though it scared me, like, I just had this need to like, I don't know, like I knew there was something more outside of Texas, basically, is what I told people. And I don't know if you've ever been to Texas, and I'm sure the mentality, it's just sort of it's not the mentality here only, but it's the mentality of like a lot of people that, you don't venture, why venture out? Like, it's safe
Mhm.
and secure, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I just wanted to see more of the world, and I've gone through. I've been global a little bit, but I definitely want to just have the freedom to check out more in the U.S. and wherever I want to go, basically. So, and
Mhm.
that's becoming more the norm. But for some, I would say overall, it's still not the norm. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So what you're doing is kind of like, is it accepted? Do the people around you support you? And
My friend, probably my best friend, I don't know if he totally gets it, but he definitely supports it because he knows that's where my heart is. Just like, he's
Mhm.
always, he has a online business too. So
Mhm.
um, like when I get just so have days where I'm just like, it's not going how I want it to go. And, it helps me to like, at least I can just share with him. And then once I do that, usually it's sort of like, oh, but these things happen, right? Like these opportunities I could have so easily that I already had coming, maybe not coming to me, but you know what I mean? I could have just said, you know what I mean? Not a big deal or whatever. No, thank you. Not thank the universe. Where now I'm like, sort of like, okay, that's opportunity. No matter what it ends up doing, it's still something that was sent to me that I asked for, right? And even if it's not, I everything you ask for, everything, right? So the good and bad, it all is like has magic in it. And, sometimes you have to relearn things that, you haven't learned or taken a different action or whatever it is, right? The universe is trying to communicate to you. So, yeah, just trying to get more in touch with that. I don't know. My family will probably think I'm off my rocker again because my brother thought I was a gypsy before, but, so I don't expect that really to change because that's just where they're at. And I'm okay with that. Right. So, yeah.
So do you find yourself censoring yourself online at all from them?
Sometimes. Oh, for my family? No, I don't really know that any of them are online. If they are, I don't know.
Okay.
Like my mom's not like she refuses to get on the computer. So my brother isn't on like social media. My nephew might be, like his mom might be, but I don't ever really think about them when I'm online, at least consciously, unless it's subconsciously somehow back there, that's always a possibility, right?
Are you posting on like your personal profile just as easily as in your group?
I don't always post stuff on my personal profile. I usually post most stuff on my business page, but that's just by choice since that's like my focus. So I don't get on and paste. And if I post something on my personal page, it's usually something from my business page, if that makes sense.
Right. You would share it to your personal.
Like I don't really spend the time to share, I don't know, like if that makes, you know what I mean? Like how other people share like, oh my God, this happened or whatever. Like, I'm very conscious of like, I really like to see what kind of energy I'm putting out online because sometimes you need to have, write in your journal or whatever, or get yourself to a place where, okay, not saying that you have to be a 10, but you want to be out of your low vibes, right? Where, not be, you just want to be conscious of the energy you're putting out. And whatever, my coach says, wherever you're at that day, it could be perfect for someone, for someone else, right? Needing your help. So, but you just want to be conscious of it. Like if you're sad, that's the kind of energy you're going to put out, or depressed or whatever. So like, today I've been very conscious of like not posting till I felt like I was in a place of like, I'm not like, woohoo, but I'm like in a better place than I was I'm not like sad and depressed and just sort of feeling like a hot mess. Right. So yeah.
It's important, even if you throw a song on that you really love and just get in your own vibe a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So this part of you that really wants to go completely digital, and you've been wanting to do that since before it was even possible, really. And I know what you mean. It's like,
like I moved around and had jobs, but the internet didn't exist, and like how to make it work before then, it was sort of like, I don't know, maybe my intuition would have had a good answer, but I didn't ask back then. So
yes. And so were you feeling your own gluten intolerance even back then? You've been working with that?
I did not know. I mean, gluten intolerance really wasn't like something that was talked about for a really long time. And I'm in my 50s. So I'm in my early 50s. And it just wasn't talked about then. Like food allergies weren't a thing even, when I was like even in my 30s or, Then when in my 40s, when I moved back to Austin, like he's one of my best friends now, but it was actually because he guessed about it because he had a friend that was gluten intolerant. So, it's strictly like a guess thing that, it was all I believe it was all divine timing, right? But
Mhm.
yeah. So I didn't find out till like in my early 40s probably that I had gluten intolerance and what that was. But it had been affecting me for a couple of years before then. Like I was starting to feel really crappy, no energy. I
Mhm.
was I was hungry all the time. Like I would eat and then I would be hungry 30 minutes later, which made no sense to me. Then I would feel really just bloated and tired after eating like, bread or pasta or something like that. Yeah, and I just didn't have the energy, and I was starting to get really depressed, which was totally like not, you know, I usually wasn't, like that. I was more outgoing. I wasn't really what I call an introvert, right? I was
Mhm.
more outgoing and social, like a lot of people, at least what we think is social. So, and before I found out, and I just kept getting more like where I just didn't want to go out and want to meet people. And I just felt
Yeah.
when you feel crummy, you don't feel like having to
Mhm.
do anything. I mean,
So when did you start doing this for yourself, in your 40s?
my business,
Well, you started kind of working
or
with
you
your
mean
own
gluten?
intolerance.
Oh, probably in my 40s. Like I started taking out, at first I took out the gluten because I thought that's all you had to do, right?
Mhm.
Um, if you take out what you're allergic to, your body would do what it needed to, and heal. And I did that. I did the traditional gluten-free diet. Let me just clarify that. So like, because that's what everybody knows, right? So
Mhm.
I didn't start feeling better. I actually started going work. I felt better for like probably 6 months. And then I started feeling like I'd eat gluten again, which I had, but I didn't know it. So I went to a functional doctor recommended by like one of my friends.
Mhm.
And I found out a few things for him, like that I had Hashimoto's, that I was celiac, and that I was allergic to corn and rice, or just corn, gluten, corn, and milk. And he gave me some like Chinese herbs and things, and they sort of helped, but they didn't, like my gut at the time, like there was something inside me that was sort of going, "You're not really feeling better, Connie. Like healthy, like feeling good again. You're not really feeling that." Like I felt better for 6 months, and then I'd sort of be, going, not really feeling good, again. It's sort of like, okay, this is not working. So I started doing a lot of research on the internet, like a lot around gluten, around anything around gluten, just, anything,
Mhm.
So I came across this blog by a doctor, a functional doctor, and he recommended asking, if you weren't feeling better, to ask your doctor for these, this certain food test. And I think there were some other tests too, right? Um, and so I asked the functional doctor I was going to at the time, and he was like, "Oh, we don't really need to do this test." And I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to go somewhere else." So
Mhm.
then I found a naturopath here, and like she actually gave me a food allergy test. But this is one thing a lot of people don't know, is like they are not all created equal. There's like different food allergy tests. And if you don't take
Mhm.
the right one, you're just wasting your time and money. And with her, like it came back showing I was sensitive to everything, and I was sort of like, what the hell am I supposed to eat? So I came home, to my boyfriend at the time, just crying and frustrated, going, and it's sort of like, what the fuck am I supposed to eat now? Sorry if
Mhm.
you have to edit that out, but
No, that's fine. People might be
um,
used to that.
okay. And so it's just sort of like, well, what do I do? So I was recommended to go on the rotation diet, and if anyone ever knows, do not do it. It's the most stressful thing in
Mm.
the, like diets in general, because I don't even call what I do now a diet. I call it a lifestyle, and that's how I market it too, because it's just more
Mhm.
empowering for women and people in general, I believe, right? So
Mhm.
um so like I did that, and then finally, like my intuition, like I didn't really remember what it was because I'd gotten so sick, it was really hard to hear it. I
Mhm.
mean, because it was all my gut, right? So it's sort of like, I don't know, when you have so many physical things going on. So I was just sort of like, okay, I'm not feeling better. I was like, what do I need to do? And I was like, I'm going to make a phone appointment with the doctor that I read his blog, right? Because he seemed to know what the hell he was talking about. And I was at the point, I was like, this is, I was just like, I need to get well or find somebody or else. Cause like, I just didn't want to live like that at all. It's a crummy feeling. So, and, so I called him and made an appointment, and, I had a phone appointment with him, went over my history and, all the stuff I had done and where I was at and just sort of things like that. And he was sort of like, well, I can help you. So, yeah. So I've done I started seeing him in 2012 after my first two doctors. So, and he specializes in gluten intolerance and food allergies. Like, he really specializes in that area, and people that just come to him that don't know what the hell's wrong with them, basically. And usually it has something to do around food intolerance or something like that. Like, I mean, it's just bizarre what food can do if you're not eating the right source of it. And if your body's fighting it, like, it can do a lot of damage to you. So, that was in 2012 when I finally found him. I initially, like, we came up with the idea around like doing a food allergy training for, restaurants. But that was before I actually went to him. So I was still physically like foggy headed, not really working that well. To clearly do anything. And I don't even know how I did anything, but somehow I did. So, restaurants weren't responding because restaurants are all caught up in their fear and lack of vitality thing. Right. So, so after that, when I finally started getting well, my friends started suggesting to me, to start a business online around gluten, because I always had people coming and asking me questions just around random things around gluten. Somehow I got this repetition as being known as like the gluten girl, or, gluten person, or whatever that, something around that, like, and like the people that know me here. So, and health as well. Like, I look at it as food allergies and gluten intolerance were just like my doorway to health. So, it goes really, really deep, and that's just my jam, and it's just my, gluten intolerance is my avenue into that area, which really has morphed into from my own work, right? As you grow and learn from yourself, I've really gotten clear that, like, a big part of my coaching, even though women may not realize it, right? But it's starting to get, I want to say, a little more, people are hearing it more, so they're not like going, what is mindset, right? So much, because you do, and other people. And really, like, I work with people more on mindset, and like, I give them the knowledge too, but if they don't work on their mindset, like being open, blogs, loving themselves, self-care and all that, like, I can give them everything I know about gluten knowledge wise, and the odds are it's not going to stick, right? Because and they're not understand why, but it's, and they get on that little roller, hamster, wheel, keep going on and on. I mean, I talked to a lady, like, she's been doing this for over a year, like, and she's like, I don't want to spend the money with you. And I'm like, I don't see the value. And I'm sort of like, so I'm like, okay, well, I can take that and look and see if I'm not conveying my value, right? And take it from my side. What's going on her side, I can't take responsibility for. I mean, like, but I can take it from my side and make sure that I, look at tweaking and improving me communicating my value. But she just, like, her mindset around everything is hard, expensive. She has a love-hate body relationship. So I just don't see her getting healthy unless she works with someone. Doesn't have to be me, right? Around her mindset. Because I know I had to work a lot on my own mindset. And the more I've worked on it now, I realized, like, that was just part of my journey. And I didn't even realize it, how much I worked on, food stories. Because people affect your food stories as much as your money stories, your self-worth. And I mean, it's all self-worth, right, is what it boils down to. But, like, it's ridiculously crazy, like, these things we pick up around like food. I mean, money
Food's got a
too,
pretty bad
right?
rap these days.
Well, it always has in a way, but the thing is crazy is like, people like, for example, women will go, I met a lady, she went, like, she was staying at her mother-in-law's for something. Her mother-in-law always made this particular dish when she came, right? So even though she found out when she was gluten intolerant and dairy intolerant, like her mother-in-law did not switch it for whatever. That's a whole different, I don't know why. But the lady still ate it, even though she knew she was going to get sick from it because she felt like guilty and she had to do it. See, and these are things that people, women especially, and men probably do it too, but women, I know, so like do it, even though they know it's going to make them sick to please someone else. So like being a people pleaser or self-sabotager. I mean, I've even seen myself do
It's the
that too.
same thing
So
that people
anyway,
do with money, right? It's like,
yes.
some
But
people
then I can't see it sometimes with money, like you can see, help me dig for that, right? Like you may not see yourself doing with food. That's the interesting part for me too. Like different people have to help us with different parts.
Totally. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's why we have this beautiful thing called the internet. Okay, so just as you're talking there, let's look at that, because is it making money, spending money, or saving money that seems to be the trick zone?
Well, I would say they're all connected, but it starts off with making money, right? Like, and I may have become unaware of it, but since like I want to go digital, and it's sort of like, okay, the only thing I feel like that's holding me back is making an income, right? Or from, coaching and then looking for other types of incomes, right? So like, I would say, to answer your part, the tricky part, or is that what you said? Is like making the money. But that would all be connected to spending and saving the money if you're not making money.
What do you think that you're the best at, making, spending, or saving? You do it no problem. It's an automatic.
That's a good question. I just feel hesitation, so that should say something, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I would say making money, because one of the things I've seen for myself is like this thing that I'm continuously growing and working out of, and it's just taken me a little longer to see what I need to like do to keep my high vibes so that I don't keep getting stuck here, is like, I would say I don't feel like there's been times in my life I felt like no problem, I could make money, right? So that's how it comes up for me. Saving money always seemed like a challenge on a job. And spending money, it has varied at times, right? Sometimes it seemed okay to spend when I was making more, and then sometimes that seemed like a challenge too. So I'd say it's always seemed to me like variables. But the thing I've also seen for myself is that like this whole thing I have with like money, which I know is deeper in self-worth sometimes, right? And this is probably old shit that I mean that's up leveled for me, which I need help with, so I'm getting help right now. But it's always been there, right? Like even when I was on a regular paycheck, like this was always in the back. And I mean, I just didn't know it then, but I am very clear now. It's always been there, and it's always hindered like why I was only making a certain amount, like of money.
And what is that?
My life. Say that again.
What is that was hindering you?
Well, I know one of the things that I've definitely like, before I started my coaching 2 years ago, I didn't love myself. I didn't even know what that meant. I was codependent love person, just like everybody else, pretty much, right? So that was one thing. So learning to love myself has definitely shifted over everything. Like triggers I used to have. Now, I don't know, I've done a lot of healing work, right, around a lot of different, well, all the areas are connected, right? So that's one thing I would say, self-love. And sometimes I wonder if my head is just, I'm just going to say what's there, fucking with me, making me think, because you know how sometimes you get in your flow and you're manifesting, you're waiting, not waiting, right? But you're taking action, you're doing everything, you're doing, I mean, we're not perfect, right? But I'm just saying you're working on it and your emotion and action. And then your head starts doing that thing about like, well, shouldn't this happen sooner? Or you've been working this a long time, or, you know, that whole thing, like right before it comes, right? Like your head starts doing that little trick, right? And I'm very present that it does do that. And it can do it really well. Like you make you wonder like, do I need to look at how, or whatever it is. Like usually we get stuck in that how thing, or it starts going into like, well, you know, that's sort of like, well, they're doing it, but you're not doing it. Or, you know, however your head takes you off your ego, right? Sort of does that subtly. I'm just getting more in tune. I mean, I'm getting more in tune with that. And like, when it comes up for me, I'm sort of like, I usually look at stuff. I don't like set them aside to see if there's really something new, if there's something new for me to heal, or if it's just, you know, that old story coming up for me, my head trying to take me down the rabbit hole again.
Well, sometimes the story comes up to look at, right? To learn something from, for sure.
Sometimes it does, yeah. And if you look at it and see what's there for you, or, you know, the fear or the lesson, whatever it is, right? Yeah, you work through that, then it's like, oh, the heaviness is gone. So, or else the heaviness, if you don't look at it, the heaviness stays there. So.
Yeah, and we can feel that. We know when that happens. So, something that came up was, okay, when you were a kid, when you were in school, and so you were shy, were you, because there's something coming up here about like the codependent piece that you brought in, and you know, it's very normal. It's normal things that happen to all of us when we're growing up, because teenagers and kids can be fucking brutal, right?
Oh, yeah. And you want to fit in with the normal, right? Which, even though our instincts going, fuck the normal, you don't need to be normal. And I remember mom telling me, you just always wanted to, you know, beat to your own drum. And I was like, yeah, I do.
Yeah. So was there, I guess there's two things coming up. Okay. Was there a situation that happened ever in your life where you lost a fair amount of money, or money was stolen from you or taken from you, or it felt like it was unfair, something that happened around money?
I don't remember ever losing a lot of money when I was young, because you're talking about young, right?
Anytime in your life.
Oh, well, I was married once, and like, I don't know, I would say we were like living pay to check, because the person I was with, well, I was like more of a saver and like pay your bills and then buy stuff, right? Or, you know, buy what you need, right? Not extra stuff before you buy, like, you know, your basics, right? So, and then like and this is such a bogus story, I don't even know how I can, he told me once, like, he lost all his money, like it blew out the window of his pickup truck. And it was like money for our car payment. And once when I was little, like right before our birthdays, someone like broke into our house and stole like presents. And I don't remember what else they stole, but they stole a watch, like a necklace.
From your parents?
From my parents' house, yeah. But they were gifts like for me and my mom, because our birthdays were coming up. Let me see if there's anything else I remember around like that.
Okay, that's good. I want to work with the one where he said the money blew out the window.
Okay.
How did you feel about that?
I was pissed off, and I thought, I'm not that, and I was like, two, it was like, dude, I'm not that stupid. I was like, no one is that stupid to believe this story. But I mean, like, what could I do about it? He'd spend it on whatever he spent it, right?
Yeah.
So like, but no one lets money blow out their truck. I mean, seriously, unless, well, there may be cases, right, if you're on drugs or something. But I was just sort of like, really?
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like the dog ate the homework story, right?
Exactly. Yeah, something like that.
Okay. And how did you feel about him in that moment? And how did you feel about, because here's the thing, in that moment, you probably made a vow that nobody was ever going to lie to you about money again or something like that.
Give me just a second.
Mm-hmm.
I was angry. I was frustrated. I also felt like I had made a bad choice in just him personally. You know what I mean? Like, and when it came to money, like that, he just didn't, you know, he literally like thought it grew on trees. Like, you know, I started feeling like his bank account instead of a person with him.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like in that moment, I really felt like, you know, to tell me something like that, and he thought I was that stupid that I would buy it.
Yeah. Okay. So that stupid part, right?
Yeah, and
Does
that's definitely.
does that tie in with any other area of your life? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Just in general, I would say somewhere, and I don't know the exact moment, right? But I somehow had it that like, you know, I had it that my brother was perfect or something like that, which maybe because he was older, I thought that. I don't know when I made that decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to actually, you know, I had to be like the perfect child or perfect girl or something like that, you know, smart. So I wasn't overshadowed or something.
Was
My
there
brother.
like I had to pretend to be perfect?
It was probably something like that because no one is perfect, even if we think we are. And I never thought I was perfect, so it probably was pretending. You
Like
know what I mean?
in order to kind of match his what people thought of him, you had to kind
Well, I
of.
think it was more my parents, like what I thought my parents thought of him, right? And what I thought my parents thought of like their kids should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the good kids, the smart kids. They didn't really do anything ever bad because my
Mm-hmm.
brother never did anything bad in school. So it was sort of like, I don't know, that was sort of my personification somehow, I think, just because of church, because my mom wanted us to go to church to do that. And I totally hated it. And it was not my thing. I just didn't know why, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a spiritual person, but when you start getting into like the whole religion thing, and now I understand why after reading like Conversations with God, totally makes sense to me, right? But yeah, I always knew as a kid that it's just, you know, this is like not my thing. You people with
Yeah.
talking about struggle and all that other shit, it was just sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
no. I just knew, and it was sort of like, you know, and then after a point as a kid, you keep going, you just keep your mouth shut and just, you know, because it's,
Yep.
you can't get out of it. And like, you can't explain, the adults don't get where you're coming from because they think you're a kid and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Right.
Yeah.
So that shut me down. And I think I just started feeling like to fit in, I had to do whatever I had to fit in, like even at home, you know, like being like the smart girl, you know, the good girl, the people pleaser, basically to fit in, right? Like, because even after that, all my life, up until, you know, where I did Landmark before I got my transformational coach, but I felt like I needed more than Landmark gave me. And there's nothing wrong with Landmark, but it just didn't, it didn't help me with a lot of areas. I kept going backwards, right? And I didn't know why. So I always felt like I had to fit in and be that people pleaser. And I'm sure I did that like everywhere in my life, everywhere. I know I did, like everywhere, like letting people just get away with shit.
Yep.
And not like calling them on it. Cause you can call them on it and be straightforward and come from love, right? Now that I know that, but and set your boundaries and all that good stuff. But I didn't know how to do any of that shit. So like, I just felt like people walked all over me, and I felt like I had to let them do that to let, be part of being normal people and have friends.
Yeah. In order to survive, really.
Which now I laugh at. Yeah. So
I love that you brought some of these things up, because anybody who listens to this afterwards is going to totally connect to that, because it's something that we all have been through and we all have felt. But what comes up that might show up in your business, in your life, or as you're moving forward, that more than like what happened to you in that moment when were you married to this guy, or he was just a boyfriend?
No, I was married to him.
Yeah. So when he said that to you, and you knew with all of your heart, soul, mind, and body that it was complete bullshit, right? How long did you stay in that relationship after that?
Ooh. I don't know if I remember.
A while?
No, it
Okay.
wasn't a while, because things started unraveling. Like, he wasn't getting what he wanted, so he initiated it, I think, right? Which is sort of funny, because I was scared to initiate it, but once he did, I was sort of like,
Thank God.
Yeah.
And you feel good about the release of that marriage now?
I think so. The other part of it, just so you know, and I don't know if this plays, is like my dad died at the same time I was dealing with my divorce. So I had a lot going on in my head, probably. So, I would say I've worked through, I don't really have a lot of stuff come up around that part of my life anymore, like that particular, the marriage. Like, I used to really beat myself up about it. But I'm one of those people that I beat myself up whenever I do anything, right? Like, I used to all the time, right? Is one of the things I used to. But I mean, I've really learned through my coaching, not, that doesn't empower me. It doesn't empower people around me if you're beating yourself up. So that's what, and it still happens, because I'm not perfect, but, I can catch myself in it now and realize it's just, you do this. Like, what did you learn from it, and what can you do differently, next time, right? Because that's really all it is lessons for us. And sometimes we just don't see the lessons after
sometimes
10
we
times.
don't see the lessons. It's true. So the lesson that I see here is, a subconscious part of you, whenever money might be on its way to you or coming into your life.
I sabotage myself, it seems like. Is that why you're going to do? Sorry.
It might be more of a, like you feel like it's, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but feels like you're kind of still blaming the money for the lie, right? So when money is about to come to you, that same sort of emotion can be stoked when he said, the money blew out the window. It's almost like you don't believe it.
Okay.
Right? So the next time that you have a potential client, or you're doing your thing, and imagine, so use that, how we were talking about, like, in every shithole, there's tools and gifts from it too, right? So
absolutely.
Imagine that scenario. And instead of that money blowing out the window, imagine that truck filling up with money. And, maybe somebody else that you really think is hot is driving the truck. And they bring, I work with visuals a lot. Imagine them showing up on your doorstep and the truck is full of money.
Okay.
And that's going to help you, and journal through that a little bit too, because, you know, that's going to help heal that wound around, I mean, the word that comes up is blame, but I don't, there's like a hard reaction to that word, because it's like, well, who wouldn't have that reaction if somebody said the money, all the money blew out the window, right? Like, yeah, there's gonna be a high level of blood pumping through the body.
When you said that, actually, what came up for me is like, I know a lot of times, like, it's like most of our things are blocking us, or like when we're
Mm-hmm.
the age of 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was also something else, because what really, it didn't trigger me, it just sort of went being like believing, like somehow my belief, like that I know I'm manifesting stuff, but my believing that's actually going to come to me is not always like just really believing it, right? And trusting and just knowing it, like knowing it that my hair is brown, right? For lack of a better analogy, but you know what I mean?
Knowing it like the sun comes up every day.
Yeah, and like that we're twirling on this little, you know, I don't know, glob of ground, and like we live on it, which is totally amazing, right? But just not worrying about how it works, but just knowing that, right? So like I can see somehow my belief like is just not knowing that. I mean, not like totally believing it, because I manifest stuff. It just takes sometimes, I don't want to say too long, but it just seems, you know, I know you can manifest stuff faster when you're in the flow, right? Then it just sort of occurs to me as like it pops up finally, which isn't true, right?
Sometimes it just takes time for alignment. Sometimes
Yeah, divine
we
timing.
sometimes we think we're ready and we're like, oh my God, I was ready last month. But sometimes we're not.
Divine timing.
Yeah. And then, you know, a couple of months pass by and you're like, oh, I've let it go. There's huge power in letting go too, right?
Yeah.
I often find as soon as I let go of something, bam, it's like,
Yeah. And that seems to be like very, I don't know, like we hold on to stuff, and then when that's the attachment thing, right? And you don't even realize you're attached to it.
mm-hmm.
So like I've actually had people say, you know, okay, like coaches, like very successful people I know, like say, you know, they put this picture, whatever they wanted on their phone, right? And for like months, and then they decided to just take it off. And then as soon as they did that, like, bam, it showed up, because like no attachment to it. It's just so interesting. Like, and we'll never understand I mean, we do, but you know what I mean? Like how people want to analyze it.
We just have to play.
Exactly. And like keep your vibes up. Like that's one thing. Like you would probably really love The Vortex. That book has just given me.
Is it written by Esther and Jerry? Okay.
And they channeled Abraham.
Yeah.
And they channeled Abraham. Like it has really given me a clear vision of, like, it's all about keeping your vibes up for law of attraction, and like focusing on what you want and what you don't want. And like I really feel like I've started to really, you know, like when thoughts come through, then I'm sort of like, hell no. We don't need to keep thinking that, you know. So
and I work with another part of that too, that's like, you also can't deny things when they come up. I think law of attraction sometimes goes that way, where it's like only focus positive. But if something comes up and it's causing you to have an emotional reaction, you got to sit with it. You got to get to know that. You got to be
I totally agree with that. My coach taught me that, like, if fear comes up, it's coming, like fear is your friend actually, right? Like it comes up for you to learn something that you hadn't learned before, you know? So you want to look into like what that fear or whatever the emotion is that's coming up. I mean, it's like why today I chose this morning to like I don't know, journal, meditate, and do all the things I need to do until I got to a point where, you know, I just didn't feel heavy anymore. Like, and I kept looking at, well, why is this bothering me so much, you know? And if you keep looking and asking whatever question, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to get a response. You just got to listen. So,
so what's your number? What would you like to make? What's your,
like this year or just in general?
It comes up differently for people. Sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's yearly.
Okay.
Sometimes it's quarterly, sometimes it's daily.
So I would say mine's monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, like at this very moment, like what I feel like what comes to me is $2,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay.
And I didn't censor that for once.
Beautiful. I love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big, you know, even just being able to say that out loud is a big thing.
It is.
It's a big thing. So what I want you to do from this call, because we'll wrap up here,
Okay.
sit with that and journal about everything that comes up around that in the positive, you know.
The dollar amount or, okay.
Yep, the dollar amount. And then I want you to use the, like the mantra, or let's say the affirmation, truckloads of money are on their way to me.
Truckloads of money.
And if you have any sort of like negative response in any way when you start saying that, tap on the area that you feel in your body.
Okay.
Have you used EFT? Yeah, I think you have. So you could move all the way through all the points, or you could, like when I say that, empathically, I can feel that in my heart. I think, you know, when that happened, it broke your heart. You know, like that hurts. You lied to me. And then shortly after, your dad passed. So healing your heart around that area will be big too. Yeah.
I can feel it.
Yeah. You know, tap on that just a little bit before we go here. Just bring your hand up and just tap on your heart area. And just take a couple deep breaths. So there might be trust issues that come up for you in your business too, when it comes to hiring or delegating things out, and that's okay. You know what? That's okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you don't need to do it all on your own. You don't need to do relationships all on your own. You don't need to do money all on your own, but it's okay that you've guarded yourself. And it might take a little longer to reach out and trust people than it used to, or than somebody else, but we don't need to compare ourselves to anyone. Good, and just rub around your heart area a little bit. And you can do some more tapping. You know how to do that. You can do that.
Yeah, I've actually started because I don't know, a while ago, like I can't remember what it was now, right? Something just made me get really anxiety, and I watched this one, I don't know, or it was around money, and I could just feel the anxiety around one specific thing for me, and like it's helped me get where I am. Basically, right? So like,
you know, money, like you say, it's like food, it's like relationships, it's like anything. We have big triggers around them, and we walk around pretending like everything's fucking fabulous all the time. And there's shit.
I don't really do that anymore, but
yeah, I know. Sometimes the grocery store teller asks me how I'm doing. I'm like, do you really want to know? Or like if I'm not having a fabulous day. I don't pretend that I'm having a fabulous day.
I know, and people don't know how to deal with it. It's really interesting. Like they don't though. Like we have a roommate, like he's one of those people who come in like, how you doing? Right? Just no matter what. No,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just like, and he doesn't know how to respond to it. And I almost want to laugh because it's amusing, but it's like I'm just where I'm at, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not like being on this show.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. And
yeah.
and we're noticing more and more people are doing that too, right? And saying,
Well,
hey,
it's gonna make it, it's a good shift for people. I
yeah,
mean, we can find our,
honestly,
I mean, we all have abundance and success. It's just
yeah.
different. Some of us are, whatever it is for everybody is different, right? But there's
For
more than
everybody, it's different.
around, and
Yeah,
we have our own people out there. Like
yeah. None
I
of
used
us,
to have
no
people,
two of us want the same things in the same
no,
way. No two of us have the same experiences from our childhood or our adult, So we've got to make it unique to us. And if you're having a shitty day, hey.
my coach says though, like, if you're at a one, that's a perfect place maybe for like that person that needs you that day or whatever.
Yeah,
Right? Like
exactly.
you never know who you're gonna like.
Yeah, if you're always vibrating at a 10 and somebody's at a 1 trying to ask for your help, you're not going to be able to connect with them.
Yeah.
That's
So, and
true.
there's no way to stay at 10 all the time. I mean, that's trying to be perfect.
Hell no. I go through all stages every day.
Do you? Mine's, I can tell when I'm up leveling. I think me declaring like what I really want to do, that's like started it. Because my Mac showed up. I had this old Mac, right? That was just really dragging along. And then like my new Mac showed, well, it came to be, and it's sort of like, wow. Like in the most, I didn't expect it. I mean, that moment, you get things like in that moment you don't expect. Like that's one thing I keep hearing over and over again, or like with love, like it's not the person you thought how they should be or whatever, but when you focus on like someone that does come in your life and like you give that openness, like the possibility is there, right? And it could be someone you would think that would never ever like be that person.
When you can connect to a person on a level that nobody else has connected with them in a long time, which is what you do, what we do, right?
Yeah.
That's the payoff for life right there. It's like, that's what I'm in the game for.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. So, and I think the world's shifting. I don't think, I know, I can feel it shifting a whole different way. And I think that's one reason, like, I'm very sensitive. I don't know about you. I'm very sensitive to energy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't, but yeah, I get too much energy from other places, but I've started using crystals and stuff that help me keep
There's
my
a lot
energy.
that we can use. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oils, crystals, breathing. It's like coming back to the elements and the basics, right? For assistance.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's totally, I wouldn't be here today with you if I hadn't found, I mean, not in a place, I don't know, not where I'm at.
Yeah, totally. Neither would I. Yeah. So I guess we'll wrap up. I want to say thank you for being so open and honest and sharing. When we share our gifts so openly, we never know who down the road that's going to touch. And I know a lot of people resonate with what we've talked about on many levels. I'd love to check in with you in like a few days or so and see if, anything's shifted. Or just send me a message, let me know because often within 24 hours after I work with somebody, even though it feels like, well, I'm not sure what really happened there.
Shit comes up and then you start.
Yeah, and it can come up on my side or your side. So let's stay in touch and let me know how things go.
All right, I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie. So nice to connect with you.
It was nice connecting to you, Jennifer. So
lots of
have
love.
A great day. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.